is going on, Geek Corner members? This is your boy Earth Smack the Man Scientist, and this is Pro Wrestling Talk Live right here on this Wednesday night. Shout out to the infamous Alvin Staley in his absence, running solo today, but that's okay because we got some pro wrestling to talk about. Do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button and that notification bell. That way you get notified on all of our content, whether it's live or recorded. So speaking of live and recorded, there's also a little link that is pinned in the comment section so you guys can click on it. It is our Discord, ladies and gentlemen, and it is free 99. There's no pressure on that. It's got every channel for every interest in geekdom, so you might want to go ahead and check that out. And now we're going to shout out our now 328 subscribers for the Geek Corner members. So because we in the Orange Phoenix channel, we talk about all things of geek culture, whether it's comic books, whether it's manga, whether it's video games, whether it's anime, whether it's pro wrestling like tonight, you name it, we nerd it. That is what we do, man. And tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, myself, Vivo, The Vibe, Boogie Blends, we'll be hitting you up on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, like we do every single week, because we got some nerd talk to hit you with, like some news to hit you with. And I won't really say a list per se, but it's some interesting conversations that's going to be had tomorrow. But tonight, though, is Pro Wrestling Talk Live, and I appreciate you guys for actually hanging out today. So I am slightly under the weather. I wouldn't say under the weather, but slightly under the weather because the weather is changing, ladies and gentlemen. The weather is changing to a point where it's getting a little cool outside. You know, the temperature's dropping a little bit. And usually when temperature drops, that's when allergies start to act a little crazy, you know? So if I do sneeze somehow throughout the show, please forgive me for sneezing on the show, okay? If you hear a little sniffle, please forgive me on the show, because we are here and I will not cancel the show otherwise. So today, we're going to talk about some AEW, so All Elite Wrestling, in terms of long-term storytelling, which is honestly one of the biggest critiques, one of the two biggest critiques of AEW. So we're definitely going to be talking about that. And this is an hour before AEW Dynamite tonight, which comes on at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on TBS, which a lot of people might be thinking to themselves, yo, this might be, hey, the world is run by the wicked. Yo, what is happening? It is beautiful out here in NOLA, New Orleans. Shout out to this world, man. And listen, I wish we had your type of weather in NOLA. Now, it's not terribly cold out here in South Carolina. I mean, it's the temperatures drop by surprise, and sometimes they hit you. Fake fall is what I call it, because I feel like the weather's going to warm up again, and you're going to hit that thermostat, and that's when you're going to get fooled. That's when you're going to get hit with something. So I'm going to be careful out there. So long-term storytelling with All Elite Wrestling. This past weekend, we had Wrestle Dream. And with Wrestle Dream, it ended on a solemn note. It ended in silence, which has really, to my knowledge, never happened in AEW. Like, never happened. Like, it always ended on like a high note or some type of surprise, and it's like, oh man, I can't wait to watch AEW on Dynamite. But this is different. This is a different approach, which means, to me, there is a paradigm shift that is happening. No pun intended. It's funny that I did say that. So maybe it is pun intended. And the shift is Jon Moxley is the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Konosuke Takeshita is the AEW International Champion. And for the first time in a long time, the titles are held by nothing but heels. So what does that mean for AEW? Let's start with the main event. So with the main event of Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson. I mean, obviously it was a knockdown, drag out battle, very, very physical, as we know it was to be. I was only concerned with what was going on with after. What would happen after? Will Bryan Danielson retain? Because it will be a moot point if Bryan Danielson retains, right? But he didn't. Jon Moxley won fair and square in the middle of the ring. Choked the man out. And it's like, man, I wouldn't say ended kind of flat. It ended in a surprising type of way because it was no fanfare with the ending of that match. But they proceeded to jump Bryan Danielson, Wheeler Yuta come in and make the save. And then all of a sudden, Wheeler Yuta put the plastic bag over Bryan Danielson, putting him out of his misery. Like, people didn't see that coming. That part didn't matter as far as you seeing it coming. If you didn't see it coming, it's the fact that it was done, and done in a way where Wheeler Yuta was pissed at himself for doing it. Orange Cassidy comes in the ring. Darby Allin comes in the ring. The returning Adam Cole comes in the ring. But I'm going to need you to pay attention to the camera angles of this. The last people that were shown at the end of Wrestle Dream was Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin. Now, earlier this week, well, last week rather, I think it was Christopher Daniels. They approached Orange Cassidy and said, "Listen, man, I see a lot of potential in you. It's like a rah-rah speech, right? But on the surface, it looks like it fell on deaf ears. Like, it was just somebody talking. It was somebody to fill the spot. But you see an image of Orange Cassidy where he is stone-faced. He is not the regular OC. He's not that aloof type of guy. Excuse me, sniffles again. But yeah. So he's not that regular type of guy. He's looking pissed. He looked incensed, angry. And then you look at Darby Allin, like he literally lost that match against Jon Moxley. And he has a look on his face that is regret. This is my fault, depression. It had all kind of emotions over his face. Because if you really think about it, because of Darby Allin, Jon Moxley is in that position to put Bryan Danielson out of his misery. A fellow Washington relative, native. He aided in Bryan Danielson getting put out of his misery. He's the responsible for Bryan Danielson not being full-time anymore. So you got two homegrown talent that is being focused on to cultivate and to grow to be the next guys. And Jon Moxley and the BCC are the ones to do it. Now, mind you, Wheeler Yuta is sitting there in the wings because obviously Darby and Wheeler Yuta are going to have to cross paths. They're going to have a feud, which means that may take a couple months, right? At least that's what we want it to do. And then you got other BCC members, right? But the other BCC members are trios champions. So that will have to take a trio to take those titles off of them. So I'm pointing out all these little key points in this. And you might, and the people that want to know why Wheeler Yuta, why, look at the past though. Look at the past, like incidents where Wheeler Yuta was disappointed in Bryan Danielson when he was championing Daniel Garcia, and Daniel Garcia turned on him, and Wheeler just like, bro, I don't know where your head is at. Or anytime Wheeler Yuta was down and out, Bryan Danielson was like gesturing to the crowd, and Wheeler Yuta's like literally bleeding out right here. Not caring for Wheeler Yuta. It's like, man, where were you? And that's where Wheeler Yuta gonna come in and say that. I can almost guarantee you that's where that promo, if he cuts one, will come from. Long-term storytelling. That's what we've been asking for, right? We, putting the pieces together. And Moxley was like, they immediately put that title in the bag. They put it in the bag, walked out with it. It's done. I'm holding the belt hostage because this ain't the AEW that I once knew. I need to get it back to where it needs to be. And if it takes me being the bad guy to do it, I'm going to be the bad guy to do it. This man ended Bryan Danielson's full-time career. He's the one responsible physically to do that. So and then AEW Dynamite got to pop off on all cylinders. Like, it has to follow everything in Wrestle Dream that is of high value. Everything that we want as far as long-term booking, because now it's gonna take a little bit of time. Like, it took the Attitude Era time to build to where it needs to be. Builds where it needs to be. It took Nitro and the NWO storyline time to build, because as time progresses, the more wider the attendance is. And then the more wider the attendance, obviously, the higher the ratings is going to be. So you look at that long-term story. You got the villain, his group, they're holding a good chunk of the belts, minus a few. You got baby faces that is lost. Like, they lost their hero. They lost their leader. They lost their guy that is the flagship bearer for AEW. More so than he was the BCC, which is also a talking point for the BCC. You know? And you got a number one bad guy. Who's going to stop Jon Moxley? Who is in Jon Moxley's path to beat him? And right now, no one is in his way. Everybody around him is dejected. You might say, oh, no. What about Adam Cole? Adam Cole is busy. Because Adam Cole got a situation going on with MJF. Because this is like, what, a year and a half of storyline being told? Because, and you might question, why Adam Cole is getting cheered and he was the one who betrayed MJF? Like, he is the sole reason why MJF is the way he is right now, because of that betrayal that happened at World's End. And, as Bryan Danielson would say, the world is a little bit fickle. So they don't remember, but we enjoying the ride nonetheless. Daniel Garcia re-signed with AEW, but he's put at the forefront because he's now in a feud with Jungle Boy, well, no longer Jungle Boy, the scapegoat, Jack Perry. Jack Perry is holding the TNT Championship hostage, and we loving his gimmick and what he's got going on. And Daniel Garcia, the crowd, the fan base is yearning for the fact that this man can be a singles champion, another young, homegrown talent. This initiative that is being put out there right now is that we are going to push our young talent. It's no longer about the old heads that's coming in. It's about the younger generation being at the forefront. Because if we do not do that, there is another company that is looking to steal our shit. NXT has nothing but young talent. NXT has nothing but young people of color. And you got to do something, AEW. You got to do something. And this is their first step in Wrestle Dream. What they did, the ending of Wrestle Dream, for a solemn ending to be the way it was, for it to end in silence, for it to carry over to the media scrum where Tony Khan wasn't there because he went to follow, Bryan Danielson to the hospital because he was that concerned, leaving Tony Schiavone and Nigel McGuinness having to headline this media scrum, which was honestly, I wouldn't put together is, well put together is not the right word I will say. Unorganized is not the right word I will say, but dejected is the right word I would say when it comes to that media scrum, because now the energy has sucked out of the room. It's like, what did we just see? And that's what you want. That's what you want. You have our attention. The fan base, you got our attention. Now, what are you going to do tonight on AEW Dynamite? You cannot fall flat. You cannot afford to fall flat with this storytelling, because we got to know what is next. And that's it. What are you going to do now? Because now you got our attention. Now you got to keep it. And this not a proclamation. I want Jon Moxley to hold that title until next year. I want Jon Moxley to hold that title until All In Texas. That's what I want to see. I want him to hold it for that period of time. Like, people just come up, try to face this man, and he beats them all. The first person, obviously, is Orange Cassidy. And Orange Cassidy will get the shit beat out of him. Like, I mean, my thing is with Orange Cassidy to rebuild him is you beat the shit out of him. I mean, little to no offense. Straight up squash match. Like, do what you got to do. Because now at this point, that's two people. Two of your favorite people is done. Oh, like Orange Cassidy takes time away from AEW. Like, he does something different. Like, and then he comes back and it's a different Orange Cassidy. It's a more serious Orange Cassidy. This is Orange Cassidy that's like, no. I'm going to fight what I believe in. Keep Darby away from Jon Moxley for a while. Put obstacles in front of Darby before he gets to Jon Moxley. And you can run this thing until next year, which is long-term storytelling. That's what that is. Now, Konosuke Takeshita, same rule applies. You just beat Will Ospreay and a newly acquired Ricochet, and that's something we've been asking for, something we've been yearning for with Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita. I'm sorry, getting tongue-tied. Is your guy. Absolute your guy for that international championship. And he's actually defending that championship at Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling against Josh Alexander. And he's literally taking that belt internationally and defending that belt internationally. And he's doing what he said he's going to do, which have no issues whatsoever because Pac was doing the same thing. And Konosuke Takeshita is taking it back to its roots. Now, what about C2? What about the Continental Classic, the Continental Championship that is being held by Okada, which is basically another heel, but we're enjoying his gimmick nonetheless. Who's going to be the person to step up to beat Okada? Who's that next guy? Because we always hear rumors about Ricky Starks, 1 foot out the door. He's waiting for his opportunity and X, Y, Z. But what if there's an opportunity for Ricky Starks to be Okada? What if there's an opportunity for him to hold a singles title and run with that thing? Because he could be one of the top baby faces in AEW. Because somebody at that Continental Classic is going to beat Okada, hopefully. And let it be a young, homegrown talent to do so. Now, you look at the tag team division. You look at the tag team championships. You see the Outrunners. You see Private Party, where the Outrunners is actually surging in popularity. Why can't it be them to take out the Young Bucks? Why can't it be them? That's just a guess, because the Young Bucks are heels in their own right. They are egomaniacs that's holding the tag team titles hostage, and anytime they're in a tag team title match, they always come out with a dub. That beat Private Party, which they did not pull the trigger on Private Party, and then you see what happens with Private Party at the end of their match. Looking dejected, looking like we let the fans down. We couldn't get the job done. So you keep that out there. But everybody that's holding a title right now are heels. And right now, there is an initiative going on in AEW. There's an initiative, and I'm hope to see what will happen. My thing is do not pull the trigger too fast. Do not jump the shark. I love the pacing of Wrestle Dream, because the pacing of Wrestle Dream is probably one of the best paced shows. It wasn't one of my favorite pay-per-views. It's still a good pay-per-view. It is worth the money as far as storyline is concerned, because we are speculating that the mysterious figure is Shane McMahon, but we did not see him. They never mentioned Shane McMahon coming to AEW. It's just more of a fan initiative, like, oh, Shane is coming to AEW. No. There was speculation that Bobby Lashley was going to show up with MVP and Shelton Benjamin at Wrestle Dream, but he didn't show up, though. We knew he signed with AEW, but the fact that they did not pull the trigger at Wrestle Dream says everything that needs to be said. You do not have to shoot. You don't have to, look here, you don't have to unload the clip all in one night. Like, give us crumbs. Give us a little bit by bit by bit by bit. Week by week by week by week. Of course we know Bobby Lashley is going to show up, right? Of course we know that. But we don't have to see it right away. Give it to us later. Give it to us later. Shelton Benjamin is, allegedly, he is wrestling Leo Rush tonight. Swerve Strickland gave his answer to MVP. He said, listen, bro, I'm never turning my back on family, my guy. So you can take that offer and you can shove it up your ass. Now, at that point, Swerve doesn't have anyone in his corner. It's just him and Prince Nana. That's it. But obviously, Bobby Lashley is going to play a role. But who will be on Swerve's side? Because you got MVP, you got Shelton Benjamin, and allegedly Bobby Lashley. So who's going to be on Swerve's side? So we don't know that. But at the same time, give us little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit. Jay White and Hangman Page. Jay White goes over on Hangman Page. And he has his focus now on the second person that has something to do with being his nuclear deterrent to the AEW World Championship, and that's Christian Cage. And it was like, yo, where's the story about that? Why he's all of a sudden following Christian? Is Christian holding the contract for the AEW World Championship? Is he not? Is he not partially responsible for Jay White not being present at AEW now that his debut? Jay White has a list. Hangman Page was one of them, which I believe it's not over between Hangman Page and Jay White. Like, it has to be a couple more matches involved, and then he focuses on Christian, and then you keep on going on and on and on with the story. Now, another thing that can happen is Darby Allin beats Jon Moxley, right? And that same night, Christian cashes in and like, yo, I'm gonna get you right now. And he takes the title away from Darby like that. The moment, like, it's like, yo, you got all this happiness and everything in between, and then Christian comes out and snatches that happiness away from you. And now again, you go from one heel to a even bigger heel in Christian. And who's gonna beat Christian at this point? Who's gonna do that? Man, that's something to think about. Now you got branches of storage. AEW have a golden egg. Don't let it hatch too fast. That's my only critique. And I know Tony Khan is like chomping at the bit because he always do these fantasy bookings, and I think he's realizing, and this just is me speculating, I think he's realizing, like, you know what, I can't just do these fantasy matches all the time and say, yo, I'm a sicko and I want to watch this person versus this person and with no story behind it. Like, yeah, we enjoy the match for the match, but you gotta understand something. I only watch New Japan Pro Wrestling around Wrestle Kingdom season because that's how I want to start my year, with some good old pro wrestling, and New Japan Pro Wrestling at the Tokyo Dome. That's what I want to see. But watching it year round, though, I can't watch it year round because there's a little bit of story there, but it's not as, the story is not the forefront. And AEW in certain ways, are like the New Japan of America in a way. But I think they are getting to know their storytelling, getting their footing. And the honeymoon, I think they're realizing that the honeymoon phase is over. We can't just depend on these fantasy booking matches, this person versus this person, because eventually it's going to run out. We need stories to build up to make these matches larger than life, bigger than what it is. This might be the third time these guys facing each other, but there's a story behind it, and I'm intrigued now by cinema, which is the buzzword. So again, like, Wrestle Dream is the golden egg. It's the golden goose. Like, you do not want to hatch that egg pretty quick. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You got a company that has nothing but heels as champions, and they have been lacking heels in AEW because it's always a feel-good moment at the end of an AEW outside of a couple shows here and there. There's always a feel-good moment at the end of an AEW pay-per-view up until Wrestle Dream. So that lets you know, like, this may be one of them situations where, maybe Darby Allin pulls a Sting. Maybe he pulls a Sting where, remember when Sting disappeared? But, the blonde tips is gone. He just hanging in the rafters, just looking. And then he comes back and he faces Moxley. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't say anything. He's so dejected. He's so disgusted with himself that it's his fault that Jon Moxley did this to Bryan Danielson. It's his fault. He lost the match. He let the world down. Jon Moxley didn't do it. I did it. So I'm stepping away. He steps away, and he don't come back for a couple months. Oh man, you see me? You see it, right? You see it. He steps away for a couple months. You don't have to be for 6 months or nothing like that, but just he steps away, man. He lost everything. He lost Sting. He lost Bryan Danielson. He lost his world championship opportunity. And he got nobody to lean on. He's like, hey, I'm that guy. I'm the day one guy, right? I'm always champion AEW. I'm always be the flagship bearer for AEW. What if he cuts a promo tonight saying, man, I'm done? Or have a situation where Darby Allin has something to do with Bryan Danielson, or he's indirect. He's responsible. How people was blaming Sting way back when that he was part of the NWO, and then Sting just got tired of it. And he's like, yo, y'all can stick it, and he left. So now you have no scapegoat. No pun intended. You have no scapegoat. So what if Darby Allin actually goes away for a while and comes back silent? Don't say anything. Man, that's some good TV. That's some good TV. And the first target is Wheeler Yuta, because Wheeler Yuta is the one who sent him down this spiral. And you take out Wheeler Yuta, and then you come back with the Army. You come back with Orange Cassidy. Different. Like, more muscles, Orange Cassidy. You come back with Daniel Garcia. But this young group, this new blood going against these old heads in the BCC, and then finally Wheeler Yuta just turns face, and then you finally get that push. You finally get that happy ending at All In next year. So you got from now until the summer in July for All In Texas. Man, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Long-term storytelling. They are focusing on young talent. As long as they keep that focus, you're going to keep that young talent. That young talent is not jumping ship, because now they know that the company is invested in them for however long. Shout out to RJ City, man, because we found out RJ City was one of the ones that actually wrote out that BCC storyline. It was so good, it was so captivating that Nigel McGuinness, the #1 Bryan Danielson hater, he didn't fully turn, but you saw his level of concern after the match. Like, he wasn't super happy about what happened. It wasn't like a casual beatdown. Like, this is realistic. It was real shit. Like, this is what happened. Nigel was, I'm like, I don't know about this. What if Nigel was the one that just shows up and Nigel just gets tar beat out of him? Man, it's then you got Hook. You got Hook right there too. Hook is your other young talent. So, man, you got yourself something. But the road to All In starts with Jon Moxley and it ends with Jon Moxley. And Jon Moxley goes through the people he goes through. He goes through some heavy hitters. He goes through some people that you know they might have a chance, but they just couldn't get it done because of the overwhelming numbers. And then finally, Darby gets that dub, and he faces Jon Moxley at All In, and he's part of the main event. Man, oh man, that's something to see. But the Continental Classic is coming up, ladies and gentlemen. It is coming up. That's like Okada. Who is the young person that's going to step up to beat Okada? Who's that guy? Will it be Hook? Will it be Ricky Starks? I'm hoping it's Ricky Starks. I hope Tony Khan back up the Brinks truck for Ricky Starks. He's like, listen, here's this bag of cash. Here's what we have for you. Here's the roadmap for your career right now, starting on Wednesday or starting on Saturday. And this is a quick way to actually build up Collision once again. You got a reason to watch Dynamite right now because of what transpired at Wrestle Dream. At the end of Wrestle Dream, you have stories. You don't even have one story. You have a few stories to actually tell with AEW. So we will see what happens. We will see what happens. Guys, tune in at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Vivo the Vibe, Boogie Blends, and myself will be talking some nerd talk. We're going to be talking about the Green Lantern casting. We're going to talk about this date for the new Superman movie. We're going to be talking about some Marvel Comics stuff and everything else in between. And again, shout out to my staff. Shout out to the Orange Phoenix magazine staff as well, because we have a magazine, ladies and gentlemen, and it will be dropping later on this month. As far as conventions that we are going to visit, we will be visiting conventions starting next year, starting with Raleigh Animates, which is the first weekend in January after the holidays. And we're actually going to decide whether we're going to go to Ichiban Con the following weekend, which is in Concord, or go to Central Comic Con in Columbia, South Carolina, which all 4 voice actors for the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will be there in Columbia, South Carolina. That looks a little bit more enticing, and it's at home. So 9 times out of 10, we're going to be at Central Comic Con in Columbia, South Carolina, the weekend of the 11th and 12th and all that. So we're going to definitely jump into that. So hope you guys love the show. Do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button and that notification bell. And yes, there are a couple of videos that are out there in our channel. Go ahead and check out those videos. I just released one involving Storm issue number 1. Definitely talking about that. Before that, DC Specials All In, and before that, Absolute Power. Go ahead and check out those videos. Yes, go ahead and hit the like button on those videos as well. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, that is the end of our show. I hope you guys enjoy AEW Dynamite tonight, because I'm going to be tuned in, hook, line, and sinker. I am locked in. They better deliver tonight. They better end. I hope they end on the same note they ended Wrestle Dream with. Because now if it ends on a cliffhanger, I got to wait till maybe Collision or maybe Dynamite. Let that thing carry over to Collision. Let it carry over to Dynamite next week. Cliffhangers. That's what gets us. That damn near $1 billion deal Tony Khan had with HBO Max, and this new AEW Shockwave that's coming out. Yeah, man, you gotta keep us vested. Again, that's our show for today. Love you guys. Until next time, y'all. Peace.
Hotter in the summer. The winter don't stand no chances. Hotter in the summer. Yeah. Hotter in the summer. The winter don't stand no chances.
Went from wearing Chuck Taylor to Balenciaga. Sweaty think I'm rubbing on the genie bottom. Giving nada, saying nada, I'm just pushing product. I made my waves in the winter, now my summer hotter. Move too swift for all the lame shit. You asking for a favor, how I know we ain't the same, bitch. Watch how in and out lane switch. They trying to earn cheese off a K, but they ain't switch.